K-pop Demon Hunters has taken the world by storm, and like any good story, it instantly inspires me to improve my storytelling and incorporate the best parts of it into my TTRPG games, whether I'm a player or a GM. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hi there, folks. Welcome to Sir Ryan of Wiley's Castle, where we look at life through the eyes of storytelling and TTRPGs. I'm Sir Ryan of Wiley, and let's dive right in to K-pop Demon Hunters. As of recording this video, I have watched K-pop Demon Hunters about 15 times, which is totally an acceptable amount of times to watch it. I love this movie, and I plan on having more videos about it in the future, so if you want to follow along, subscribe now and we'll be on that journey together. Also, spoilers ahead for the entire movie, so if you haven't watched it yet, what are you doing? Are you okay? Do you hate fun? Last call for spoilers. 3, 2, 1, moving on. Today we're going to look at the 4 main characters, Jinu, Rumi, Mira, and Zoe, and look at their backstories and talk about how to use them for your characters going forward if you need some inspiration. While you can certainly just copy and paste any of the 4 main characters, and yes, there are 4 main characters, the other Saja boys do not count, and that makes me very, very sad. I think there were 5 major things that you can take for your TTRPG characters to make them the best that you can. Those 5 things in no particular order are: have a secret, create a strong bond between your fellow players, have a personal goal, make some good old-fashioned family drama, and have a connection to your job, your class, your species, or your background. I fully plan on covering other TTRPGs like Daggerheart or DrawSteel in the future, but for today's video, we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons specifically. One last thing before we go over all of these things in detail is that everything we're going to talk about today should be covered in a session 0 with your DM, GM, and your fellow players. That's where you're going to go over things like the rules, anything you do and do not want in your games, setting the tone of the campaign, any safety tools, anything like that. That's going to be where you go over all of those things and all of the things that we're going to talk about today with your backstory and your character and all that kind of stuff. There's going to be a video on my channel about that at some point, so if you want to watch that, great. Now let's talk about that first takeaway, which I said was having a secret. Each of the 4 main characters, Jinu and the girls, have a secret that they don't want the other players or people to know about. For Rumi, it was her patterns. For Jinu, it was his selfishness and the fact that he left his family behind for his deal with Kima. For Mira, it wasn't so much a secret that she was the problem child, as she references in Golden, but she secretly wants to be loved and to have a family, but with that tough exterior, she doesn't want anyone to know that. For Zoe, her secret was wanting to fit in and never feeling like she really did. So you can see from those examples that your secret doesn't have to be something tangible, like something physical on you, or something that's riddling your past. It just needs to be something that you don't want the other players to know about. And if nothing else, it's going to give you a way to role play your character. You have a secret, you're going to want to guard that from your other players. Just come up with a couple things, maybe a couple secrets that you really just don't want your other players to know until it's an appropriate time. Our second takeaway is building a strong bond with your fellow players. This is a crucial thing that you should establish and truly the most important out of the 5. If you don't have a reason to like your fellow players or care about them, your game is just not going to get off the ground. You really need to establish that you all like each other for some reason, or at least you have a reason to potentially care about your fellow players. That doesn't mean you can't have tension between your fellow players. In fact, that can be a lot of fun, but you should have this one thing that unites all of you so that you should care about your fellow players. Think of how much less interesting K-pop Demon Hunters would be if the girls hated each other. That bond that the girls have is what pulls Zoe and Mira out of giving their souls to Gima at the end of the movie. So being a part of the same group or having connections to each other individually at the table is what's going to be able to make those bonds and create that found family at your table too. I think that's one of the best things about playing TTRPGs. Number 3 on the list is a little bit easier and just having a personal goal. For Rumi, it was get rid of her patterns. For Jinu, it was get rid of the voices in his head and try and stem his shame. For Mira, it was find a family. And for Zoe, it was fit in somewhere. You can even take this one step further and add it to number 2 and have a group goal as a whole, like, oh, I don't know, creating the golden honeymoon? Having a goal for your character to push throughout the campaign is not just a way to stay connected to the story, but also a way to define your role playing. Does this interaction help further my goals? Where can I find that one NPC that's going to help me reach my goal? All of those things together and and again, even as a group, are going to help dictate the story and help the players actually push the narrative forward. Our fourth takeaway is really a cliche, but something I think that is really important to adventuring is to have some family drama. All adventurers need a little bit of a reason to adventure. You can't just not want to adventure. That's the entire reason we play TTRPGs. Not giving your character a reason to adventure, whether that is their personal goal or the group's goal, is going to make your character feel bland and possibly bore you, the player, at the table. This is a mistake I've made while making characters, so I definitely want you to learn from my mistakes. Your characters are people, and they have to have goals. They need to have all of those things. For our girls and Jinu, these things were tied heavily into their backstories, with Rumi and Jinu obviously being the biggest examples. Rumi's parents are both not around, and her father was a freaking demon. Real quick, did you notice how Celine said, "when we lost your mother," implying that her mother might not actually be dead, but just lost? Maybe a demon? I think some things Celine has done is going to have major implications in the next movies, and comment down below if you think Celine is also some kind of, maybe not a villain, but her choices have then resulted into Rumi not having two parents, and that's not great. I'm going to make a future video talking about all of the world building questions that I have for K-pop Demon Hunters, so subscribe now if you want to watch that later. Anyway, Rumi has the classic "my parents are gone" trope, a la Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, etc, etc, etc. It's a very common thing. But one thing I really enjoyed about her family bond is not only that it's with the girls, but with Celine herself, which we already talked about a little bit. There's for sure some secrets going on. It really does help create that sense of tension between Rumi and Celine, especially when Rumi confronts Celine about the honeymoon and all of that kind of stuff. Jinu has perhaps the perfect warlock backstory if I've ever heard one. Poor, wanting a different life, making a deal, but with an extreme cost. If you're gonna make a warlock, just do that. That is exactly what you should do. It's a great backstory, it adds to a lot in the future, and it gives the DM a lot to work with. Even Zoe and Mira have their moments of family drama. Mira, obviously being the problem child, kicked out of her family or just left her family, whatever the backstory is there, and then having a found family with the girls. Zoe's family is nowhere to be found in the movie, and she moved from Burbank, California to South Korea. So where's her family? What's going on there? Does she miss them? All those kinds of things. How you do your family drama is going to vary greatly. It could be something like, I argued with my sibling and ran away, or my parents disowned me completely. All of those things allow the DM to have room to maneuver, creating NPCs from your background to be able to bring into the story now. Just like our characters in K-pop Demon Hunters. They all have their family dramas, and they all impact their decisions going forward. You're never going to be able to deal with what's in front of you until you deal with what's coming from behind you. So obviously, having some family drama in your history as a character is just going to add to the flavor of the campaign. Last but certainly not least are your connections to your class, your species, and your background. Think of these things as your why. Why are you a bard? Why are you a wizard? Why are you a cleric? Those little things can start to add to your backstory and add to your character to flesh them out and be a real person in this pretend world. Why did Zoe want to become a K-pop idol growing up in America and then coming to South Korea? Why did she make that journey? Why did Rumi want to be an idol? Was it just because her mother was? Was it because she found some calling in the honeymoon or something like that? We don't know, but those kinds of questions are what you want to ask as a player. How did Mira go from being kicked out of her family to becoming an idol? Those kinds of questions you want to have answers to, or at least to the best of your character's knowledge. I love when my characters give me room to fill in the gaps in their backstories, or hopefully even surprise them during the game. There's going to be a video series talking about my entire 3-year-long campaign that I ran weekly for my friends, going over their characters, going over the modules that we use. I kind of just combined and shoved together a bunch of Forgotten Realms games, and we're going to go over them individually, talking about the things that I liked about them, things that I didn't like, how I'd run them again if I was going to run them, and how I changed it to fit my players and the story that I was telling. So watch out for that coming on the channel. There you have it, the 5 key takeaways that I think K-pop Demon Hunters does really, really well in terms of characters and what you can take for your inspiration for your TTRPG games. If you're a new player to TTRPGs and you haven't really got this whole backstory thing figured out yet, just try taking one of the 5 things and running with that. And again, talk to your DM. They're going to be your best source of help for that kind of stuff. But if you're an experienced player, take all 5 of these things and then meld them all together. Take your goals and make group goals, make individual individual goals, then have those all tie together with why you decided to become an adventurer in the first place. All of those things together that lead with your family drama, and go from there, combine them all together, make them into one epic backstory. That's the end of the video. Thank you all for stopping by the castle. There are going to be a lot more videos to come, as I've already mentioned, so please feel free to subscribe and join our growing community. If you're looking for even more community, I stream on Twitch, so follow along there. I'm Sir Ryan of Wiley everywhere, so come find me, come join the community, and let's tell great stories together through our TTRPGs. Bye-bye.